Hello. Well, I went around the internet today and there was a lot of talk about Doge, Department of Government Efficiency, and what they're doing and how it affects the, the people of the United States. And I found myself getting nostalgic. I remember back in 2001 that the Bush administration, we were in the middle of a real bad economic time. And I forget the exact amount, partly because I had married someone who was greedier than I was, obviously, and I never saw the amount that I got, but they decided to give. It depended on your marital status and and who paid taxes and what there were a lot of ways to figure out the amount that you'd get, but we got a good sum back, and we, like a lot of the country, we were behind on bills, and me as head of household, I felt we should use the money on bills. My now ex-wife, my wife at the time, she no, she thought, she went along with President Bush. He says, "Do not use this to pay your bills." Well, I thought that was kind of stupid, because if you're behind now, if you just spend it on frivolous stuff, you'll still be behind. It won't help the economy any. So I wanted to use it towards bills, and well, I didn't have control of the debit card. She had the debit card in her wallet. So by the time I got home, it had all been spent on. She bought a new computer for herself, and she got internet for the household, and she basically spent it on what she wanted, and I never saw a penny of it. But anyway, my mind went back to that because now we have Doge, and they're doing a lot of drastic governmental tax cutting. If it's frivolous, get rid of it, and it's freeing up a lot of money. And I saw President Trump. He was giving a speech, and he was actually floating the idea of taking 20% of everything that Doge saves the country and splitting it out amongst the taxpayers, because it was money that was taken from them. He said, let's take 20%, give it back to the taxpayers, and the rest we'll use to pay our legitimate debt, the the true national debt. I forget the amount, but when you broke it down, the 20%, and split it up between all tax-paying individuals in the country, it came to anywhere, depending on who you talk to and what kind of matrix they used. It came to anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 each. Now I don't know where my audience is sitting as far as money, but I mean, $10,000 is $10,000, and I could definitely use that. I mean, I quickly crunched the numbers a little bit, and I could pay pay 6 months of my rent and still have, $2,800 to, you know, pay my pay to heat the building, heat my apartment, keep lights on, keep my internet. That would be, especially now when I'm out of work, I could use that money. And it's money that the government took too much and spending it on frivolous things like, you know, circumcisions in Africa. Why? You know, giving it to all these foreign governments to do superfluous stuff. It's spending that we don't need and shouldn't even be involved with. But I thought, yes, that would be a great thing to do. He's also talking about getting rid of the IRS so we don't have to worry about that anymore. Everyone pay a flat tax. I'd I'd actually enjoy that. I may be paying a little bit more than I do right now, but still, you know, the same percentage rate for everybody. And I'm sorry if someone's making $1 million a year and I'm making $30,000 a year and the tax rate is at 20% or 15%. 20% would be easier to figure out. My my 30,000, 20% of that would be about 6 grand a year. Where somebody making 1 million would be 800,000. But we'd all be taxed the same. And make it mandatory that our government every year has to submit. The way it used to be, the president would submit his budget, Congress would submit theirs, they'd hash it out in Congress, and come to immediate, uh, consensus, send it back to the president signed it, and boom, that's what the government would spend. But now we've totally bastardized it and changed it into a creature that nobody can recognize anymore and is scared to recognize anymore. We need to number one, get control of our government because they've been, and I mean, Trump's trying. He's draining the swamp as we speak. You know, Doge is going in and they're basically auditing the United States government, which has been long in coming. He's talking about getting rid of the IRS and changing it over to the ERS instead of the Internal Revenue Service. He's going with the External Revenue Service, which is how our country was funded at the beginning. We're through tariffs and excise taxes. But we had to have, I don't know, some new widget came along and they had to have the bright, shiny thing. Well, no, you don't. The entire government, everything the government did was covered by tariffs and excise taxes. Taxes on goods coming in. If you want to get rid of those taxes, well, build your company here. Hire Americans to work in your company. Then you won't have to worry about the tax. And our our income tax, it was only designed to be a temporary thing. It was only supposed to be a few years, and then I believe it was either the Spanish American War or some other global catastrophe or financial catastrophe we went through, and we found ourselves having to impose an income tax, just to get over this hump. Well, okay, the hump went away, but the taxes didn't, and that's how a lot of our stuff started. I mean, you got a very valid argument that FDR started Social Security, and he said it was only a temporary thing. Well, here we are 70, 80 years later, and we're still dealing with it. And it's become just another slush fund for the government to draw money off of. I'm of the mind that there is no money in Social Security, because we pay it out to so many people that never paid in. And plus, we got the baby boomers that are all retiring now, and they all had kids. So the next generation that starts retiring up from it, me, there's not enough there. Now, I did my part, and I had four sons, so they're all paying Social Security. But there's a lot of people that were my generation that they said, "No, we're going to stop at one." Well, there's two parents; they're both paying into it, or there's two parents that eventually they're going to retire and they're drawing off of it, but they only got one child that's paying into it. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that math don't work. And I know in my generation, maybe not my generation, but the next generation, there's a lot of them that says, no, we're only going to have one kid. Some of them, there's even some that, you know, they say, I don't want any kids. And then you got the whole, you know, welfare system that they're driving fathers away from families. And what do you end up with? Another drug dealer on the street. You know, but getting back to my original point, I feel that Trump is really trying his best to do what is best for our country. He's not making any friends out in the world. Definitely not with the Democrats. The Democrats, they see their party bus being, you know, cut off at the wheels. They've been living, you know, off that gravy train forever, and now the Republicans are, and Trump is saying, no, you want to go any further on this gravy train, you're going to have to walk, because party bus stops here. And we give it till midnight. And then the party bus goes away, and wherever you are is where you're going to be. And it's refreshing, because so many years, decades, we have been repeatedly and exponentially browbeat over how we have to think, what we can say, what we can do, who we can be with, who we can't be with. It I'm beginning to not recognize the country that I defended. We've gotten away from what made America great. And have we made mistakes? Oh, yes, we've made many mistakes. We're human. And when you get a bunch of humans together, you get a bunch of mistakes. We made them. But that doesn't mean we have to stop. Well, we stopped the mistakes. But all of us getting together, we can minimize the impact on each individual for those mistakes. But you still got the price to pay. I'd like to be alive to see if we can actually, I don't think it's going to be possible, but it'd be nice to see the US finally not live in a deficit. When I was going through high school and going through government class and stuff like that, number one, I had a liberal teacher who was very, very far left. Well, not very far left, but he was tax and spend. He was a Jeffersonian liberal. But I remember when our deficit was counted in, well, I can remember back to when it was counted in millions. It was hundreds of millions, but it was millions. And people were starting to scratch their head and look at it kind of funny. Are you sure that's right? Well, then I got out in the world and I was in the Marines and I didn't pay much attention to it, to be honest with you. But then I started working and I started seeing, you know, every day in the news, it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I thought it was overblown when it was billions, tens of billions, hundreds of billions. Well, now we're sitting at trillions. We're talking over $30 trillion in debt. And we didn't even notice we were getting there because we've had, you know, the bureaucracy where everything has to be a secret. Don't tell anybody. No, somebody will get upset, so we don't want them to know. But then you have the media, especially today with internet and everything else. The new media, not just the newspapers and television. I grew up with three television stations, and that depended on where I was living. I can remember a time I had one, and that was Canadian. But the media has been hiding, running a smokescreen for all these liberal causes. Even YouTube, which some of you may see me on. I mean, I'm actually surprised they actually. Well, I can tell they don't push my point of view at all. I've been on the same amount of time on YouTube and on Rumble. On YouTube, I've had 61 views total. I go on someone like Rumble, and I've had over 4,000 views on Rumble in the same amount of time. In the same 2 or 3 weeks that I've been doing this, I've had 4,000 views on Rumble, 61 on YouTube. So that tells me right there that, and I don't know if I'll get kicked off for this or not, but I'm not monetized anyway, so I don't really care. But you know, that tells me that YouTube is pretty left leaning. They aren't going to push out anybody that has an opinion that's different from theirs, and that's okay. That's fine. I fought for their right to do that, although they're kind of they aren't being true to their patrons, to the people listening to their stuff, because they set it up as a free speech platform, but all of a sudden, free speech was taken off it, and it's just, this is our platform. You'll do as we say. You'll say what we want you to say. Otherwise, we're not going to help you get out there at all. But thankfully, we have stuff like Rumble that, you know, there I can get views. I'll still put it out on YouTube because I know a lot of people, have a lot of friends that they watch me. Not all of them have subscribed to me though, but that's personal choice. And a lot of them have heard this stuff from me before. you know, there I could actually see their eyes roll around in their head, and then, you know, yeah, okay, well, nice talking to you. Bye. Like I said before, I enjoy what's going on right now in our country. Our country is coming back again. Our government is getting smaller again. Government is one of those beasts that the bigger it gets, the harder it is to take care of it. It is a beast that feeds on everyone else. Because you look at it, if the government was a company, well, the CEO would have been fired the last 50 some years. Government is not a company. It doesn't make anything. It doesn't create anything. You got, you know, companies out there that create things. Elon Musk owns a lot of them. Owns quite a few of them. He produces stuff. He makes things that people can use. But the government doesn't. There's nothing useful that comes out of the government. Of course, if you have no income, well, yeah, the government will sit there and, you know, feed you with an eyedropper, and you're thankful for it. But they got a whole tank of something to feed you with, but they give you an eyedropper. There, be happy. I've seen that before too. This New World Order. You will own nothing and you will be happy. That goes totally against everything the United States was designed around. The United States was designed around the concept that you could come here with nothing and be successful. Everyone had the potential of success. But we've gotten to the point where nobody has the potential of being happy, because the more successful you are, the more they penalize you and the less happy you are. That's what in this 250 years, that's how we've gotten. We've gone from an unequal distribution of wealth to an equal distribution of poverty. We haven't quite been able because everybody wants, well, the human condition, looking out for number one. And I'm guilty of it too. I'm just as human as everyone else. But I'm willing to look at it. I'm willing to recognize what it is. And I'm willing to make changes in my life to not be that way. It's painful sometimes. But that's when you got to grow up. Take responsibility for your own actions. That's a big thing that we have to get over. We have to start taking responsibility for our own actions. If we make a mistake, we got to deal with the consequences. And that's what we're doing now. And you listen to the liberals howl because their actions are having some pretty heavy consequences. I'm glad it's happening. It's kind of exciting to, you know, see from day to day what's going to happen. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. But like always, I say, just keep an eye out there. We can't let it get, we can't let the pendulum swing so far that it ends up being damaging to us. Too much of a good thing is still bad. But for right now, we're still swung way left, and it got bad. Now it's starting to get closer to the middle, and we're starting to breathe a little bit easier, and I'm enjoying it. And I think those people that are complaining would enjoy it if they weren't so busy looking at their own belly button. Look around you. Look at your neighbors. Look at your friends. Look at those leading you. That's that's the true definition of success of a country. When everyone, whether they're happy or not, but are they able to live? Are they able to function? Well, I got a minute left. So, give you the same spiel. If you like what you hear, give me a thumbs up. If you really like it, subscribe. I could always use subscribers. Whether YouTube, Rumble, I'm still waiting to see what's going to happen with TikTok. But I'm not gonna give China any more than they've already gotten from me. So right now it's YouTube and Rumble. Um, Subscribe, comment, critique, whatever. I'm open for it all. Give me an idea of what you're thinking. But until then, Semper Fi.